Good morning. Man, that was excellent worship. Thank you so much, guys. Excellent worship. I got to start with this. I am so proud of us, you primarily, as a campus community. It was just, was it 2 weeks ago, I was up here yapping away and I begged you for $3,750 to buy water filters for our dear friends in Haiti. And guess what? $3,751 came in. That's a little dramatic, but yes, we got it all in. It all came in, and I cannot thank you enough. I'm so proud of you. Clap. Glory to the living God that a community like this would say there are people out there and we can do something about it. I am so proud of us as a community. I appreciate it very much. I signed off the work order, and the filters are on their way as we speak. So thank you again. Today is Faith in Action Chapel, and you might guess that Mr. Center for Student Action, this is one of my favorites. I am absolutely passionate and absolutely convinced. I'm 52 years old, and it becomes clearer to me every year that as Christians, as people of the cross, we have a unique responsibility to act on our faith, to actually believe, think, and act on our faith. By the way, if you are not a Christian, if you are not a Christ follower, you are my friend, you are welcome on this campus. I love you, and we are glad that you are here. But most of us are Christians on this campus, and I'm convinced of this. If you are a Christ follower, you have to look at the words and the actions of Jesus and actually do something on what you know and what you believe. It's crystal clear to me. When I started the Center for Student Action years ago, I prayed about it literally for years, and I landed on a verse that I'm going to read to you. It would be, to me, one of the rallying cries for why I believe we have a responsibility to do something with our faith. And I put it up as the Message version, but I want to read James chapter 1. I forgot what I put, probably 22 to 25, something like that on there. Don't fool yourself into thinking that you are a listener when you are anything but letting the word go in one ear and out the other. Act on what you hear. Those who hear and don't act are like those who glance in the mirror, walk away, and 2 minutes later have no idea who they are, what they look like. But whoever catches a glimpse of the revealed counsel of God, the free life, I love that, even out of the corner of his eye, and sticks with it, is no distracted scatterbrain, but a man or woman of action. That person will find delight in the action. James makes clear that an authentic faith is a faith that works. By the way, do not hear this. This is not a works get you salvation message. Whole nother ballgame. Don't get me in trouble. But if we see what Jesus did, and if we see what Jesus did, James realizes that our faith has to become not just verbal, but visible, and should change our character and our conduct. I see this in almost every word and deed in the example that Jesus set for us. I will go so far as to say, I'm probably nice knowing you, I may not work here anymore. I will go so far as to say, I believe you cannot be a true disciple of Jesus without acting on what you believe. Some of you are here and you're saying, Browning, I want to act, I do believe, and I want to act, and I don't know what that looks like. I want you to hear me closely, and I've said this before. If you are committed to the will of God, you cannot miss it. Do not get paralyzed, friends. I sat where you sat, and I still run into the same issues. I know people, and we get caught up in this, looking for this perfect action of what God's will would have us do. If you are committed to the will of God, you cannot miss it. Don't get paralyzed. Just take some steps. Let the providence of the living God open and close doors for you. Have a willing heart, and I guarantee you God will use your unique gifts and talents in your life. Just be passionate about doing something to advance the claims of Christ. Beethoven said this, to play a wrong note is insignificant. To play without passion is inexcusable. I absolutely believe that for those of us who are people of the cross, who have decided that we want to follow the claims of Christ. Hear me say, you are not too messed up for service. You're going to hear from people up here in just a minute who are putting their faith into action. We're going to call you at the end of this to say, what are you going to do? What are you doing now to put your faith in action? Some of you are sitting out there. I know you because you hang out in my office, and I know you because I say it about myself. There's no way that God could use me. And I'm telling you, friends, I am begging you, again, 52 years old, and I am begging you to do not let that into your brain. You have something to offer, and the power of the living God will help you do that. We are asking you to begin to consider today, how are you going to put your faith in action? Thank you.
I put my faith into action by leading Mexico outreach teams.
I put my faith into action by practicing what I preach.
I put my faith in action by seeking to understand others who might be different than I am.
I put my faith in action by writing encouraging notes for my friends.
By serving in neighborhood homework house.
By challenging other people's beliefs.
I put my faith in action by validating others' experiences.
I put my faith into action by helping others.
By participating in medical mission trips.
By obediently living a faithful life to Christ.
By consistently serving in my children's ministry at church.
I put my faith in action by giving people scripture before I give them advice.
I coach t-ball at the park.
I empower college students to see the work of God around the corner and around the world.
I take time to listen and be present.
I put people over profit.
I put character over comfort.
I put my faith in action by saying yes to the Lord's call to go wherever He calls.
By choosing to love my residents and my always.
By praying for my residents to experience God in new ways here at APU.
Good morning, good morning. I hope that video is just a taste of what you're about to hear from some of our own here in APU and the city of Azusa about how some folks are putting their faith into action. So my name is Karen. I'm the Director for Mobilization in the Center for Student Action. And with me today, I have some friends. I have Dr. Dan Grissom, who is an assistant professor. Yes. He's an assistant professor in the Department of Engineering and Computer Science, and this last summer he was a faculty staff advisor on our Namibian action team. And then next to Dan, we have Praise, who is a senior graduating next December. Yay, Praise. And then last but most certainly not least, we have Dr. Carlos Mayan Solozarno, who is the franchise owner of Chick-fil-A Azusa. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We just want to hear a little bit about your journeys and how you are putting your faith into action on a daily basis. So I'd love to hear what brought you to APU or to the Azusa area.
Well, I heard of this great city, the city that has everything from A to Z in the USA. They did not have a Chick-fil-A, so I volunteered. And I knew I was going to be right next to a great Christian university that would make me a better business person. And I volunteered to come here because of that.
That's awesome. Thank you. Praise?
I think my journey mirrors a lot of the journeys that you guys all have of being a senior in high school and just not knowing where to go. I was choosing between 3 different schools, and Azusa kind of took my attention just because of the integration between faith and a vocation and a career.
So I about 5 or 6 years ago, I was in a grad school program. So I'm the type of person that I just kind of go, God will tell me something, I'll sit in that for a few years until He tells me something different. So I'm sitting 4 years into a grad school program, And I just got married, and so I thought to myself, I better be responsible and start thinking about my future now. And so I decided to take this internship, and I took this internship, and I'm a programmer, right? So I'm sitting and I'm seeing the same 6, 7 people every day, and I'm telling them what programs I wrote the day before, and I felt my soul dying. Does anyone relate with that? I felt my soul dying every single day. And it was interesting because in the midst of that, the Lord gave me this picture, and it was just a simple picture of an eagle soaring. It just felt like the Lord was telling me, you're free. You're free to pursue the desires of your heart. And literally that day or that next day, I got an email from APU. And I just pressed into that. And a lot of things I realized I wasn't really looking to teach. But what the Lord really showed me is, hey, I'm going to give you the desires of your heart. And one of those desires was I was super impacted when I was an undergrad by a college professor. And I thought, what a great opportunity, because this is such a pivotal point of our lives where we could go so many directions. And the second thing was I just had so many experiences in Africa where I just was always trying to figure out, how can I get back to Africa? Where am I going to go and work that they're just going to let me take the summers off? And I realized teaching, right? I can take even students over there. And so for me, it just this long story of realizing that this is actually where so many of my passions and desires met.
Thanks for sharing that. I love that picture of an eagle and hearing the idea of that we're free. I'd love to also hear, when you hear or think of the term faith in action or putting your faith into action, what does that mean for you? What kinds of images, resonate with you in that?
I would like to begin by defining what faith is. And we go to Hebrews 11:1 that says that now faith is the confidence in what we hope and assurance of things we do not see. And we cannot please God without having faith. So to me, what Sir Bat Browning said earlier, we need to be doers of His word. And we believe that God created us in His image to glorify Him. And we are going to be known for our fruits. So to me, simply putting faith in action is loving on my neighbor every day. Showing you a smile, eye contact. For example, I know that the eyes is the part of your body that communicates the most. So when you see somebody coming into a room and you see them, you can tell them, hey, we love you in Jesus Christ. So I try to put my faith into action by loving on our neighbors, loving on the people that come to Chick-fil-A, into my team members. We have people that are coming in hungry, thirsty, tired, and we're able to provide for them in a loving way. We know that we're going to be known as Christians for the fruits that we give. It's good to study the Bible, it's good to have our devotionals, but at the end of the day, we also have to exercise and do something about it.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. I love that picture of the eyes. Thanks. Praise?
Yeah, when I think of faith in action, I love what Carlos said about it's, loving your neighbor. And I think for me, I look at Luke 9, and it says, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. And for me, being a business major, there's a huge push in the world and in culture around us to obtain as much stuff, to climb the corporate ladder, to be the most successful, to have the most influence in the world. But faith in action is, I think, flipping that on its head and saying, no, I'm going to follow Jesus, and what He says and what He has commanded us to do will be, what is my worth in the end.
I think for me, the end product of faith in action is I really love doing stuff with what I do. And I had been to Africa 3 summers in a row and kind of done very standard stuff. We had gone into orphanages and gone into schools and done some teaching and things like that. But I began to think as I got more and more kind of education and skills, I thought, what can I do with my specific skill set as an engineer, as a computer science, to go and make a difference in the world that maybe not everyone can make this particular difference. But anytime I push out into that kind of that faith and action, the Lord is so quick to just remind me, there's so much in posture that I think comes, our spiritual posture, before we can ever get to that point in faith. Because I remember when I was an undergrad, and I just always felt like this almost guilt, like you're not doing enough, you need to be mentoring X, Y, and Z, you need to be out on mission trips, and I just carried that around for so many years, and eventually the Lord showed me, hey, worship me. And I love worshiping. I love Jesus. And I love getting to know Him. And out of that, I feel like it's given me the ear to hear when He said, maybe let's take a look in this direction. Let's take a look in that direction. And that's the key points in my life where I realize, and it's always comes to this one thing, and I would challenge you guys, what is that thing in your heart where you're like, I'll never do that. I'll never do that. Because those are always the things that the Lord somehow gives me an excitement to do. And you're just like, but that's the beautiful thing is He'll call you in to serve in an area where you never wanted to, but all of a sudden you'll find yourself excited to serve in that area.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that that's something that we talk about in the center all the time is taking what are your unique skills and talents and abilities and figuring out how do we do that right now. You know, APU, we talk about we're difference makers. You know, we're a university of difference makers. And I think sometimes we have this misconception that that has to happen outside of APU or after we graduate. But the reality is we can be difference makers right now for the kingdom. So as you guys think about a time where you have put your faith into action, is there a story that you would like to share of maybe how that changed you or what really resonated with you as you personally maybe had the chance in your own life using your skills, your talents, your abilities to put your faith into action?
So I can certainly be a difference maker by being a business owner. And something that we all have in common is that we all make decisions in life. We're decision makers, right? Some small decisions, some big decisions. Like, where am I going to have lunch for today? That's a no-brainer, right? You know where to have lunch today.
Nice plug, nice plug.
But some bigger decisions you make in life require, your trust and your faith in God. For example, me wanting to move to Azusa was a big decision. A lot of uncertainty. I'm not sure how I'm going to be accepted, how the business is going to do. But after prayer, consulting with people that have wisdom and my pastors, I knew that God has a plan for you, and He opens opportunities for you for a reason. So this was an opportunity that I know God had chosen for me to come to Azusa, open this business, and I trusted Him that He was going to provide for me. I had confidence, I had hope and assurance that everything would be okay. The biggest surprise, and the beauty is that God takes care of even the small details. I had never realized how expensive it is to live in California. So when I was looking for homes, rents of $3,000 a month just blew my mind. How is that possible? So I didn't have income. I was not going to have income for 4 months. Rents were so high, I was worried. I didn't know where I was going to live. But I remember coming to doing my first visit to APU, and I came and I introduced myself as the new Chick-fil-A owner. And they welcomed me with open arms and said, Carlos, so good to have you here. And I want to tell you that we've been expecting you. We actually have a house for you, and we want to take care of you.
That's awesome.
And it was better than anything I'd seen and cheaper than anything I had seen. So God provided me with this beautiful opportunity to live. And once again, God always comes through for us, even in the midst of uncertainty and big decisions.
That's awesome. I love that story. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Something that I'm just a huge advocate, and something that I guess I've been practicing and encouraging the people around me to do is pray. We all have skills, we all have different majors, and we're all learning different things. But something that every single Christian has is the ability to pray. And one of the things that I think is an expression of my faith is every time I go to God on behalf of someone or something or an issue, that's my faith in action. And really cool things have come out of that. I had the opportunity this summer to work in Germany with Syrian refugees, and the organization that I was with had a human trafficking awareness arm, and every single day we would wake up and we would pray for refugees, for Germany, but we would also pray that human trafficking would be abolished. And out of those prayers, I've had friends go to the German parliament and pray over the seats of different people in parliament and over Chancellor Merkel and all of these awesome things. And it all starts with choosing to wake up and go, I'm going to talk to God, and I'm going to go and pray and ask for things on behalf of myself, my community, and this world.
Thanks.
I think one of the things I always have to remind myself is that faith is not a feeling. It's not like a rah-rah, like I feel so confident. I oftentimes have no clue what I'm doing.
I love that vulnerability, thank you, because I don't either.
I usually don't tell students that until after they've experienced something with me. But I'm just like you guys, right? It's just as big of a risk for me as for you guys to step out and do something. We took a group of 10 students to Namibia, Africa, and what we're trying to do this summer is take the public hospital systems, which have paper-based medical records, and give them an electronic medical record system. So Dan, what you're telling me you're trying to do is revolutionize the healthcare system of an entire nation. Yes. Yeah, that's what I woke up, thinking I knew how to do today. It's not, right? And it's kind of crazy if you think about it. But I don't know, you get an excitement in your heart and you go for it. But the one thing that's been so fun to see is just how the Lord showed up. We went to Africa and had, I did everything I could to plan that trip. But at the end of the day, it came down to I was able to plan some logistics. What we were going to do when we got there, who knows, right? But we got there, and it was so cool to see every single day there was meetings set up with doctors and IT professionals and even I actually got to be 3 feet from the president of the country of Namibia, which is crazy. But the coolest thing for me is seeing that you also don't have to do these things on your own. I think we put so much burden on ourselves and so much heaviness on ourselves. I need to make this happen. The coolest thing for me was I just had this idea, and I just went over there and I said, hey, I want to do something that matters. I just went to Africa and said that to some people. I want to do something that matters. They gave me something that matters, and I invited some students into it. And it's so fun to see how we were over there sitting in a room, and there was like 30, 40 people in this room. And I'm like, whoa, this was just an idea I had. And what a powerful thought to now see students owning this project. And I'm just kind of at the point where I'm almost watching them. And that's one of the big reasons I came here, because I thought to myself right before I went out and graduated, I thought I could go out into industry and I could make so much impact. I could change the world in maybe this small amount. But if I can convince just 2 students who are as talented as me and maybe even more talented as me, because a lot of you guys are smarter than me, if you could go out and do more than I would have done, I have accomplished more in my life than if I had gone out and done that. Now I see a group of 10. I literally have a class of 23 students, I think, who are working on this project. I can't do the things that this group is doing. And so I think that's so important to remember. That's not just you. Even if you have the dream, it's not just you. You got to invite people into it.
I love that, and it's so powerful. Anytime we take that step of vulnerability and put ourselves out there, sometimes we hit these really high highs, and other times we have these epic fails, like super epic fails. Has there ever been a story in any of your journeys where you thought you were putting your faith into action and it just felt like challenge after challenge after challenge? How did you handle that?
Well, in my case, moving to Azusa, I ran out of money. So that was a big challenge. How do you provide for your wife and your kids? But I still knew God has me here for a reason, and He's going to provide. He's going to provide. I remember, and in those times, God allows these difficult times in our lives for us to surrender. It's like, there's nothing I can do to make more, to be better, but it's all by the glory and the mercy of God that I depend. So God surprised me once again. He came through, and somehow I ended up getting 2 checks on the mail that provided me with enough resources, for the last month that I needed to buy food and pay for rent. And God has allowed these situations for me to realize that in any decision you make, you're going to face difficulties, but God is going to be with you all the time. You just have to hold on to His hand, pray daily, love on Him, and know that He's going to come to your rescue. And sometimes He allows difficulties for us to get closer and closer to Him.
I don't have a specific story that comes to mind, but I think right off the bat, one of the things that as a student, I faced is definitely the challenge of getting over, I'm just a student, that I don't have a ton of money. I was living in the mods last year, so I'm in this mod, and it's just I don't have that many resources. What can I do? But I think to get over that challenge and to get over some of the other insecurities that you may face, it's surrendering that to Jesus and just saying, yes, even with the small things that I do have, what can I do how can I love my neighbor a little bit more, or how can I interact with people in a way that expresses more love and truth. So, yeah.
The very first time I went to Africa, I made this friend, and she had this huge vision. She wanted to help the orphans and the widows in Namibia, and one of the ways she wanted to do that was through like a bookstore and a radio station, all this stuff. But she thought, well, hey, let me do some real estate first to kind of gain some capital. And so I came back, and this was one of those moments, right? I would never do website development. That's what I always said as a computer engineer. I would never do website development. And all of a sudden, like, Lord wakes me up one day. It's like, wow, how fun it would be to do website development, to be able to learn how to make a website, go make a website for this lady, and help this cause, right? And so, long story short, Lord gave me this awesome developer. I was the developer. He gave me this awesome designer. We made this awesome website, and we took it to Africa, and we gave it to him. And that's the end of the story, right? That's the end of the story. Nothing ever happened. They never put it up. It never went live. And as I was thinking about this, I don't really fear failing, but I do fail. I don't know if it's good or bad that I don't fear it, but I look and I see so many instances where you could say, yeah, that was a failure. That was a failure. But I also look and see, where did that take me? What did that teach me about myself? It taught me the types of stuff that I love doing, the types of stuff that I love doing with what I do in my skill set. So I think there's always a learning lesson. There's always something you can take and then build on it to take you into the next adventure.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think that one of the hardest things for college students, and even myself, I struggle with this, is how do I take that stuff that I'm super, super passionate about, and how do I translate that from moving from passions to actions? So if you could give advice to us on moving from something you're really passionate about to actually taking action in that, what would you tell us? What could we do?
I mean, I always tell students, because it's the hardest thing to sit in a class, right, and wonder, where am I ever going to use this, right? Every single person in this room has thought that. How am I ever going to apply this to my life? But I look back and I see so many cases where I think we're just called to be obedient with where we are and what we're doing today. And for me, I never knew why I needed to do well in school. And then one day the Lord says, hey, I want you into a PhD program. And I said, all right. And I never knew why I was even in a PhD program. The Lord told me, and then he didn't tell me anything else on that front for 4 or 5 years. And then one day he's like, oh, this is the point where I'm going to show you how this whole time I've been working you towards matching your passion and your career together. And it just kind of hit me, literally at like age 27 or 29. And the Lord was like, I've been working this. But if you wouldn't have been faithful in just doing well in the classes, like you wouldn't have gotten into the programs you needed to go into and the opportunities that I wanted to open for you.
I think for me, there's a lot of things that I'm passionate about. There are a lot of, being a millennial, I want to solve all the problems of the world, but that doesn't necessarily happen. And I think for me, one of the wisest things someone has said to me is just to know the season that you're in and know what you're supposed to do in that season. Not every season is a go season. We're all in school right now. We all have to go to classes, but maybe the next season you'll be sent to another country, or you'll be here in Azusa making a difference with some kids or with some families. So, I mean, for me, it's just knowing like there are so many seasons in life, and this particular one may not use all the passions that I have. And then I think the other one is to be around a community. I like what you said earlier about community, because we're not called to be difference makers on our own. We can't do it. And we're not supposed to do it on our own. So finding people who also have that passion that can move you forward, and you can springbox ideas off of, you guys can do things together. So, yeah.
All right, really quickly. There's an action item for you today. Everyone sitting next to you needs encouragement. People outside need encouragement. They need love. They need Jesus. So today, if you want to have faith into action, the first thing you need to do is you need to smile. You need to look at somebody, tell them, hey, I care for you. I appreciate you. I love you. And, I get the pleasure of doing this with my team members of Chick-fil-A, Azusa, with Naomi, with Mary, Emily, and everyone else who works with me. They get an opportunity to have a positive influence in the people around them. So you can start small, and then eventually you can go to Africa, Mexico, and make everything for the glory of God.
Thank you so much to our panel. Really briefly, super quick before we go, sometimes you feel stuck, and that's okay. In the Center for Student Action, we want to help you bridge that gap from your passions to your actions. So some of you, when you walked in, may have gotten this card. If you want to fill it out, there'll be people collecting it. We can help you. We can help you bridge that gap. And please know that the people standing up here are not the only ones who are doing this. Out there, we have action team leaders, we have Mexico outreach team members, and if we have people who are serving in the local community, people who are intentionally hanging out with international students or who are studying away. So please engage them. Ask your peers how you put faith into action. Please go do that today. Thank you so much. Have a great chapel.